All right, folks, Vitek here from Metal Wani. With us today, we have legendary David Vincent. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Good to talk to you.
When I am morbid, easily reflects the next phase of your career. I'm sure you're pumped up to hit the stage again. At this point of time, your focus for I don't know for how many years, and I wish this eventually becomes a full-time thing for you. But with the legacy you have in the metal scene and how everyone respects you as an artist and obviously as a death metal icon, why did you decide to do I Am Morbid?
Well, as the world knows, uh, Trey and I don't work together anymore. But that has little to do with my love for all of the things that I've been involved in over the years. So I don't look at it as I look at it as something separate. This is not Morbid Angel, and for sure it will sound much different.
That is true. Is that more like a logical progression in your career, or is it just to, keep that legacy alive and interact more with your fans, which probably you couldn't do while being with Morbid Angel?
Well, both,
Both.
both, yes.
All right, that sounds great. And you have a long list of songs you have written for Morbid Angel, and planning a tour like this would have a lot of songs, obviously from the first four records. Have you kind of given any thought process regarding which songs are you going to pick up for the first few dates?
I have, but I'm not going to share them with you now.
That's expected. Is it something that you're going to mix the set list on tour, or are you going to keep the same throughout this first leg?
Well, we've been rehearsing, and I've definitely added some songs back into the set that I've wanted to do for quite some time. That for various different reasons, it wasn't possible to do with Trey. That won't be a factor in my decision making anymore.
That sounds good. And obviously, you're teaming up with your buddy Tim, who's been part of the Morbid Angel. Was this a pre-decided thought that you and Tim, at least you had in your mind that you'd be joining Tim with I Am Morbid in the future?
Well, quite frankly, this is an idea that I had many years ago, and to be able to, perform songs that I love, that the fans love, and that there wasn't any interest within the guise of actually Morbid Angel that some of these things were ever going to happen.
And that's cool. And you had any other the drummers or the guitarists in mind while creating this, project I Am Morbid?
Well, I mean, Tim and I get along very well. That we spend a lot of time hanging out. Obviously, working. When bass players and drummers tend to get along pretty well because it is the rhythm section after all. And then both of the guitar players have been longtime friends of mine.
That's cool. I mean, I'm sure with this tour you'll get a clear picture of how fans are perceiving the music and how well you guys are enjoying it as well. Because it's going to be a team game that you're going to be on stage playing with these guys as well. And this may possibly also lead to a discussion to maybe write a record in the future.
We had a very casual discussion about that. I think that it's something. I think it's. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, obviously, like I said, it all depends on how you guys see this tour. But like you said, you had a casual chat. I mean, is this assuming that the tour goes phenomenal, which I'm sure it will? Would probably you go for with the same lineup for the record in the future?
Well, that would be my choice. Again, all of these people that I'm working with are longtime friends and quality musicians. So it brings a lot of. I mean, there's definitely a lot of talent. So
Absolutely. And you've been part of the classic Morbid Angel records, which changed the entire metal scene. But I mean, I'm sure it's like you all of them are your babies, be it Altar of Madness, be it Blessed for the Sake, Covenant, or even Domination. Which record, as per you, just created a storm, a tsunami in the metal scene? according to you, back in the day?
Well, I mean, I'd have to say, it's very different because all of the records are different. They all sound different. They all have, different production. I mean, you start somewhere. I mean, I love each one of them for what they are, but certainly I think Altars of Madness started it all. That was a very, it was a pivotal record even today. I mean, I'm flattered that it's still revered to the point that it is.
Absolutely, and what's the impact it had when you had bands like Death, already creating, making waves in the scene?
Well, the difference is way back when, way back when, there weren't that many bands, especially going in this direction. But if you look at the bands that were making music at that time, if you transport yourself back, you'll notice that everybody sounded different. there wasn't there, there wasn't people trying to sound like the same as, well, this person or that person. I mean, there wasn't anyone that sounded like we did. And obviously we're friends with all of our contemporaries. But if you listen to bands like, oh gosh, Death and Obituary and et cetera, at least all of the bands that came from the quote unquote Florida metal scene, everyone sounded different. I mean, there was very little, we did our thing and they did their thing and everything was great. Now it's very, there's not as much diversity these days.
Absolutely, I agree with you. You turned I Am Morbid. There must be something which made you go for this title. I mean, something that maybe connects with you on a much personal note. Why did you go ahead with this title, I Am Morbid?
Well, it's the title to a song that I wrote.
Yeah.
And it is really the way that I feel. I'm definitely not an angel, but I am morbid.
That sounds cool, man. So, obviously, throughout your career, you've dwelled into various, the musical spectrum, the death metal sound, the industrial sound, and obviously now you're into the countryside as well. As an artist, how well do you feel you've developed over the years by exploring these different kind of music you're playing, and still, see yourself as someone who's expanded a lot instead of being just one musician stuck in a specific genre?
Well, so this is part of it, right? When I fell into a trap that I think it is probably safe to say that a lot of metal musicians fall into. I don't know if it's a trap or not. People, it's a very arduous form of music to play. So just being on top of your game with what you're doing usually takes most of your energy. So when I would sit around with other musicians who play other styles, and they're like, hey, let's jam on something. I'm like, man, I don't know any of those songs. And I started thinking about it. I was like, well, why don't I know any of those songs? How is it that any of these, great guitar players can sit down and they can do a blues jam, or they can do, play just about any standard, rock or metal track. And, which, I mean, frankly, some of that stuff is it's easier to play than extreme metal is. And I started thinking, gosh, I like blues, I like rock, I like all these different things, and it's all obviously part of the history of music. So I, started hanging out with some different musicians, people who they're not metal people, but they're very well respected, well seasoned musicians in their own genres. So I felt like it helped me grow as a musician and as a fan of music, and as an artist.
That's really cool to hear, and obviously not everyone does it. I mean, I don't recollect anybody else being such an icon in the metal scene, at least in the extreme metal scene, and then you have someone like a country project, which is a different beast, of David Vincent. Do you plan to get into different other kind of music, like let's say more jazzy stuff, just to explore that other side of you, other half of you?
Well, okay, so as it pertains to jazz, there's certain types of jazz that I like more of the from a listening standpoint. The more the Billie Holiday, more sort of smoke-filled bar piano, scat vocal kind of stuff. Not so much the freeform stuff. Maybe I'm not smart enough to understand it. That's what I'm going to say. I'm just not smart enough to understand it. But it doesn't move me. But there are elements of it that you'll find, certain chord progressions, etc., that you'll find within blues, certainly within a number of different genres, not to the extreme that sort of freeform jazz would take. I respect the musicianship. I don't care to listen to it.
Right, right. I get that. And obviously, we were talking about Morbid Angel, so every song you guys have written together, has created an impact, and since the songs connect to the listener, and they became a fan of the band, is because of the bond you as a songwriter had, even with Trey, because he used to write, you also used to write, you guys had a bond together. So when you look back at that, what was that that impact you guys had together when writing these songs? Do you have any such memories of writing some of the classic riffs and lyrics with Trey?
Well, there were times when things were really good, and there were times when things were a little rough. But this is, art is expression, and art is pain, and art is conflict, as well as being happiness. So it takes all emotions to go into the creation of anything. It's just like it's like having a child. There's a whole bunch of random assortment of genes and chromosomes that make something what it is. Whether it's a tree, whether it's any animal, whether it's an automobile, there's many different components. And each component is important.
Absolutely right. As a songwriter in the metal scene, and obviously with everything you've done, and is there something which you've learned out of it? Something like a lesson which a musician learns as he evolves over the period of time, that yes, I've learned this, and this is something I'm not going to repeat in the future.
Oh, you mean like making bad decisions?
Yeah, could be. Could be the lessons learned.
Okay, well, I will say this. As humans, we're all imperfect. And if we accept our imperfection, so are there instances where I could have made better choices? Absolutely. But when I look back, I wouldn't say, gosh, I would have done something differently, because even in my times of making poor decisions, I learned something from it. So I'm appreciative of the experience, because I think that it's made me a better person. It's made me more honorable. The only thing I wish is that I knew what I know today if I knew it when I was 18 years old. That would have been, but some of these things you only gather by literally spending years on the planet. That's the only way.
Absolutely, man, absolutely. So fans are going to listen to this interview for sure, and I'm sure they're looking forward to it. What message does David Vincent have for them who are going to witness you, on stage playing the classic songs?
Well, I'll tell you what, I really look forward to seeing folks, and I look forward to making some new friends and seeing old friends, and playing some kick-ass music, and entertaining the hell out of folks.
Perfect. David, we look forward to catch you guys in Poland. Thanks once again. I'm right now in India, and that's one country which you guys couldn't hit throughout the career. And I hope at least I Am Morbid down the line comes here.
Well, there's, opportunities present themselves, and everything, when the stars align, then that's when things happen, right?
Good luck with the tour ahead, and I hope it just it's a complete success for you and the entire band.
Well, thank you very much, and I look forward to catching up in Poland.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.